Hi, Michael. Hi, Brandon.
Hey, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I just got off the phone with my daughter. They placed the high school, San Marcos High School here.
Yeah.
There's a bomb threat on it.
Oh,
You know,
God.
she's captain, but she's not captain down here. She was just giving me, it's kind of scary.
But they just opened school, so like it's not like there's finals or midterms. Like, what would be the bomb threat for?
No, they wouldn't give her any. They wouldn't give her any information. At
Yeah,
school,
yeah.
But she, she has access to the computers because of her rank. So she,
Right. Oh, I see.
They don't put it on the news either. That's scary. Yeah.
Wow. Are they heavily restricted, the schools down there, as far as mandates and having to wear the mask on campus?
Yeah, they are, but more than that, this high school underwent almost 4 years of reconstruction, and it's latest and the best. They have to be in the class on the second, or the whole school locks down, and you can't get in your class. So it's really good that way. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's probably going to be even more popular going forward. Must have really nice facilities there, right? Like gyms and everything.
Oh yeah.
That's cool.
Where'd you say it was?
San Marcos, it's right adjacent Carlsbad. Yeah.
Okay.
So I tried trying to pull something up, but I couldn't get anything on the local news. I guess they don't want to scare people, There's 4,000 kids in that school. It's huge.
I think people are used to other types of bad news. They probably hear that and they.
Yeah. Well,
Wait, what happened?
Pardon me?
What happened?
Oh,
what happened?
I was just sharing that I have 2 granddaughters in high school in San Marcos High, and they just locked the whole thing down because there's a bomb threat.
It's just a bomb threat.
Just just a bomb threat.
I mean, how many Beverly Hills have we seen over the years? There's been a lot on Cannon. I remember back in the day.
All right, well, we had a shooting earlier this year, so we're not shooting, a stab. What was it, a stabbing or shooting? I think it was a shooting.
Yeah, it was a shooting.
No, it was a shot. It was a shot. Yeah.
These poor kids, you feel kind of sorry for them, because they go through this whole COVID thing, and then they go back to school. And the first week they were in school, there was a suicide. It's, it's hard.
Well, that's probably going to happen more and more, unfortunately, because these kids have been really devastated and going through mental issues.
I think so.
Yeah, that's why it's important to get them back to school and back to normal and not get confused over what they can or can't do.
But they shouldn't be thinking about at 16, right?
Yeah, no, at any of those ages. But at least they're opening schools, so that it should be on its way back to improving.
Yeah, I think they said September it's full time.
Got it.
Which is good.
Got it.
So Sam, I was going to say, Sammy came into my office and said that the governor said no masks are needed outside now.
Really?
That's what he said.
Apparently, if you're fully vaccinated, you don't need to wear a mask. That's from my understanding.
Outside, that's outside, not
right. But inside, you still have to.
Yeah, in close spaces.
Or
was that just announced? Interesting.
Did you? Yeah, I think it was just announced. Now it could be, like a game of telephone. So I don't know. I'm not confirming or denying it. I'm hoping for it. So.
Actually, I think the president announced it. If you're outside of groups, you don't have to wear a mask. But if you're in groups, inside or outside, you need to wear a mask.
Everyone, that's my attorney speaker today, Joe Logbaum. He's a estate planning attorney, probate. He's going to talk later about that. So.
Oh, cool. Well, that seems pretty encouraging to hear that.
Well, holding open houses, they're out here, they are anyway, and everybody cooperates as far as anybody that comes in, as far as an agent and their clients and the agents that are assisting and holding the open houses.
How are they doing open house? It's not allowed in the state. I mean, you'd have to do it by appointment still.
Yes, that's
Yeah,
that's
okay.
pretty good. It's pretty interesting to see what happened over the weekend when she had 13 appointments. I think on Saturday and I think 12 on Sunday, instead of just letting people come through, I guess, which they don't allow now, but
I must get the luck of the draw. I had a listing over in Santa Clarita and one in Beverly Hills, and I had on each one, I had at least 2 or 3 people a day being like, masks are stupid. I don't want to wear a mask. And I'm like, well, you don't have to go inside. So, and they all put their masks on, but it was just like, why are you fighting me on this? Like, I'm not the one who made the rule. Like, come on, it's so silly.
and you don't want to lose your
Mask on.
license over it either. If somebody complains. Is that right, Michael?
Well, exactly. You know, I mean, but
Oh, you're on mute, Jared. But yeah, no, I mean, the rules still have not changed. In fact, this morning, the governor spoke at the CAR legislative meeting that's been going on all day. And I thought he was going to basically announce or something about easing the restrictions on the COVID on showings or open houses. And he didn't mention anything. He talked about homelessness and how that's still a problem. So I think it was more trying to keep his job speech for 10 minutes, but until they make a change, the showing restrictions are still the same. You still have, to fill out a PED form. I know I have agents that are doing deals down in South Bay or Orange County where it's a little lax, as I think Ellen was alluding to, maybe, where agents are not doing everything, that they're supposed to. But as far as showings, you're still supposed to be doing that. You're still supposed to sign the PED form, one showing party at a time. Everything that we've been dealing with since last March, April, still the same. Only thing we could do now is door knock. They're not saying we can't. So, those are
we can donut. Yeah.
Well, they haven't
We
said
can door knock?
could. You could drop. They said you could drop flyers off. So.
Oh, okay.
All right. Well, we have 30 people, which is a good start.
Close enough for me.
I'm going to. I don't see Josh anywhere, or maybe he is. But in any case, so welcome. We have a couple of speakers that we'll get to later, in a minute. But first, I want to thank everyone for joining. We've got some title people here who are always great at showing up and seeing, listening, just spreading some knowledge. First, let's see, I'm staring at you, Lauren. That's a good color to wear. Catches my eye. Do you want to tell us how the state of real estate is going?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And afternoon, everybody. So I'm going to give you my quick take of title in the market right now. Okay, so we can feel that inventory is starting to rise. We're coming into the spring months and the summer months where inventory traditionally rises, and that's happening. So that's great. And it's relieving pressure on pricing. So pricing, because there has been no inventory, has been through the roof. I think I read something that prices that are a 15-year all-time high. So that pressure on those high prices have to come down because more inventory is coming on the market. Buyer fatigue is still real. Buyers are getting beat up left and right, multiples, things are going way over. In my little neck of the woods here in Burbank, I see something listed for, $1 million and it goes out $1,250,000. It's just insane. I know these houses. I look at these houses and I can't imagine anyone writing a check for $1,050,000 for a house like that, but they're doing it. So that bubble somehow has to just hit critical mass. So with more inventory, the pricing pressure will be relieved. Rates are going up. Maybe they haven't gone up exactly through the roof like people were expecting them through the roof, meaning just ticking up, but they're definitely going up, and the public perception is that they're going up. So with that, some buyers will drop out and houses will become less affordable. So there will be less demand just by rates going up. As Michael said, open houses are still verboten, but we can feel that they're coming around in the near future. So I think buyers will anticipate open houses and start the buying process the way they've always been. So traditional way of buying, I think, is right around the corner, not just seeing something on the internet and blindly making an offer on it like people have been doing. So hopefully to a more traditional way of house shopping. Sellers are reluctant to put their houses on the market because where do I go? Where do I go? Right? So many of the sellers are choosing to just not go on the market. They're going to remodel or add on. So they're staying put, which doesn't help us for our inventory problem. And of course, geography isn't the biggest deal as it was before. So buyers have their choice to go farther and farther out because their commute is either non-existent or just getting easier. Economy's good, jobs are returning. I said all-time high in home values. And the big thing is this, I'll end with this. There's talk in the government about ending stepped up basis. I'm not going to get into a discussion or an explanation really right now of stepped up basis. But boy, if they do that, that's going to put a big kibosh on a lot of the home sales that we're experiencing. People will just frankly hold on to it longer. So it will fundamentally change real estate if they get rid of the stepped up basis. So do some homework on it. Call me, ask me about it if you want to know about stepped up basis, but that's a game changer should the government decide to go that way. And very, very lastly, is still market the heck out of Prop 19. The assessor just put out a really good email. If anybody wants it, let me know and I'll give it to you. It's a great marketing piece, Prop 19. There's some value there in marketing. But right now, great time to be in real estate, great time to list houses. They will sell if you price them right, and just go get your unfair share.
All right, cool. Hey, Brandon. Have you
Hey,
come
guys.
across the bridge? How are you?
Yeah, I won't be going to San Francisco anytime soon, that's for sure. Yeah, so, Lauren had a lot of good points. Market is still going strong. We're just seeing a lot of deals move super fast, a lot of all cash, quick escrows. And surprisingly, sometimes no one finds out until it actually opens escrow. And a lot of agents who may have had an off-market listing on this, because we're starting to see those go into escrow as well, they didn't have a prelim in advance. So everything starts from when escrow opens the title order. And we all preach in the title world, open your prelim in advance when you can. But obviously, that's not always going to be remembered. So when you have a 6-day escrow, 10-day escrow, which we're seeing, we still have to wait until the prelim is done so we can really navigate what's on there and look at, who's on title. Because in the last year, we've seen a lot of people pass away. A lot of people take on powers of attorney. I heard we're going to have an estate planning attorney guest speaking today. I mean, that is so huge, estate planning, because I always hate to see a deal fall apart because the family did not get around to properly putting the property into a trust. I know there is the transfer on death deed, which the acronym TOD is a recordable deed. It can be used to a certain extent on the transaction. Title companies do not like it. It's a lot of vagueness to it. But the ultimate type of planning is a trust. You can avoid and help these families avoid being in an estate. In probate, estate planning actually can be done the right way, but probate is no one ever wants their families or households to have to be subject to the courts and judges who gets what, and all the kids start fighting over it. So that really is when real estate gets ugly. And unfortunately, we see that a lot in the last 7 years. We've probably seen, more people headed households passing than we ever have. So, this is life. This is real estate. This is the industry we're in. So you guys, definitely as agents should take things a step further and ask those personal questions, just like Prop 19 allows you to ask them about their tax base and taking advantage of that. Ask them, have they put a trust together? Have they considered transferring their properties into the trust?
Brandon, we'll get into that.
Okay, I'm not going to take the thunder away, but that really is a top of mind thing. Deals are still happening, guys. Just remember, prelims up front, so we're going to save a lot of time.
Cool.
So that's it, guys. Thanks.
Ellen, last from Clearmark.
I'll piggyback off that. I can tell you that I experienced this myself. I helped one of my realtors over the weekend, and she had a condo that was at 800, I think 6 months ago, real quickly, and she couldn't unload it. So she decided to take a 2-week listing on it. and only take appointments. Saturday, she had 13 appointments, and then she had, I think it was 7 or 8 on Sunday. And she had 4 offers that came through. And these offers were very interesting to see because, you know, 2 of them said, okay, we'll close in 2 weeks. The seller can stay here for free, you know, for 2 weeks. We'll close in 2 weeks, let them stay for the next 2 weeks so they can, you know, arrange to move. So creative. It was absolutely amazing. She got $200,000 over asking. So, I mean, I just found that very shocking. But
Well,
know,
hopefully what Lauren said, how the, you know, inventory is going up, that we might see, you know, less competition. But thank you. So, all right, well, I want to get to Mindy. Mindy is from my NHD, Natural Hazard Disclosure Company, and welcome to our meeting.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Josh. Good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to see you. It's been such
my little.
Oh, you have your little cell phone holder. Cool. I would like to share that for the first time in 15 years, there is a new assembly bill that's attached to the Natural Hazard Disclosure Report. And this went into effect on January 1st of this year. And it's basically where the seller needs to disclose, are they in a high fire or a very high fire severity zone? And this is nothing new for my NHD. We've been doing local disclosures since 1994 when we went into business. And the purpose of this new disclosure is that the local map has to be used. It's what supersedes the state and the county every time because the local maps are updated much more frequently. So not all NHD reports are created equal. Unfortunately, this is a non-regulated industry, unlike title, escrow, and home warranty. So everybody is required to use the signature page from CAR when they write an NHD report. I'm going to share my screen. Do I have the capability to share my screen?
I don't know.
We will in a moment if you don't.
Okay, cool. I want to show you guys some slides. And the reason is that when you use the state and the county maps, if the home is not in a high fire or a very high fire severity zone, it's not going to show up on your signature page from CAR. So a lot of people are calling and saying, where the hell is it? Because people aren't used to reading, as you know. They want to just glance at it and look at the little checkbox and see, are they in or out of the zone? So I'm going to pull up this little slideshow, about 5 slides, and show you the CAR signature page. And when the very high fire severity zone for AB 38 is not on that page, it will be on our summary sheet. And then we also put it in the body of our report under fire. So we have it in at least 3 or 4 places in our report. We highlight it and we make sure that you hopefully see it, because if the home is older than 2010 and it is in a high fire or very high fire severity zone, then the seller must provide the home hardening disclosure advisory form that came out from CAR this year. So let me share my screen. Do you think I'm ready? Am I ready now? No. Can you tell if I can share my?
Somebody has to make her host.
Yeah, are you hosting this, Michael, or?
No, I'm not hosting it, but while you're somebody's figuring it out, I'll tell you though that, you know, for the amongst, you know, the TDS and the NHD report, now the home hardening disclosure is one of the required statutory disclosures that must be given to buyers. So there's, you know, 4 disclosures, the 4th one being the lead-based paint, if that's required. So lead-based paint, the home hardening, remember, you know, those 4 disclosures, TDS, home hardening, lead-based paint, natural hazard disclosures must be given to buyers if they apply.
Yeah, and I wanted to show the slides if I can. Well, I gave my slides also to Alfredo. Is he on the call?
We're working on it. 1 second. It should.
Oh, okay. We can always go back to it later if you want, because the map shows the difference between a state or county map, and then we show a map where it's in a local disclosure that's high fire, and it's really good to see the visuals of those. So if we can't do it now, we can do it maybe later in the meeting. But I'm always here to be of service and help. If you have questions on the report, you can call me, our customer service department. We are always available if there are extra maps that you need. Our report is full of blue links all over the report, and those links take you to the government agencies that determine if you're in or out of those zones. So for example, are you in a flood zone? FEMA determines that. You know, so FEMA gives us a link. We provide that to you within our report. And that way the buyer can click on all the blue links throughout the report, in addition to all of the maps that we provide that are Google Maps. And the maps are accurate and exact. So there's releasing liability for you agents and putting it all on our shoulders. And the best part of MyNHD is that we've never had any issues on our reports since 1994. And we keep you safe and protected. $10 million of E&O protects all of you in the transaction. So.
Well, thank you.
We had you screen shared, Mindy, but
Oh,
before
sweet.
you share that, I just want to make a quick announcement because unfortunately I have to jump off in a moment. But
Okay.
Red Day, many of you are familiar with Red Day, which is a day that as a company, Keller Williams throughout the country gives back to our community. It's on May 13th, which is 2 weeks, I believe, from this coming Thursday. And we are going to be going to a local beach, being basically somewhere either Santa Monica or Marina del Rey, to clean the beach. And it's going to be a great opportunity beyond giving back to the community for all of us to sort of get reconnected outside since we've been fairly disconnected. So stay tuned for the details on that. That should be forthcoming by the end of this week. But we're trying to get as much participation as we can. We'll spend a couple hours likely in the morning, and then we'll try to gather for a lunch afterwards. So May 13th, sort of mark your calendars for the first half of the day, and it's going to be a great opportunity to do well and have fun.
And I think we're trying to look into working with Heal the Bay. So if anyone has any connections to that organization, you know, maybe reach out to myself or Alfredo. Yeah, so May 13th, Red Day, which is great. So
one last thing. Sorry, Michael. I also just want to, I see some faces, some of which I see regularly, some I don't see as often. So I'll take the opportunity now, but I just want to commend all of you guys for what we're having, really, quite frankly, a record-breaking year thus far, and the momentum continues to build. You know, #1 Keller Williams office in all of California in terms of profit share, number 17 in the country, and this month is looking every bit as good, if not better. So I just want to commend and say congratulations to all of you guys. It's really exciting to see everyone achieving at such a high level, and it's not by accident. So thank you.
cool. Yes, great job, everyone. Now it's sort of business. In about 10 minutes, we're going to have Joel Lokbaum, who's an estate planning attorney, speak about estate planning, probate, pitfalls to avoid, you know. But before that, I just want to go through some new stuff that is coming up. I just sent out an email. Hopefully, if you did not get it earlier today, just let me know, and then I'll make sure you're on the list. But they're in June. They're giving CAR is issuing some new forms. So when those come out, I will let you know about that. We're going to have Jeff Kahn, who's our attorney, speak in a couple of weeks and do a Jeff Kahn Legal Day during one of my broker calls. So he'll probably address some of the changes in the forms. The big one that's not happening till the end of the year is the residential purchase agreement. That's changing. It's going to look completely different. I sent out a link of a video that goes over the whole new changes, what they've done. It's really helpful. It's kind of long. You don't have to, it's just watch it at your own pace, but do it before December because you want to have some idea what your new purchase agreement is going to look like. Substantively, it's going to still be the same. It's taking on a whole different format. All right, so a couple of things I wanted to just go over, which we sort of touched on. So, you know, a buyer's right to cancel in this crazy, you know, market that we're living in or working in. If the buyer is going to use a contingency to cancel an agreement, they've got to use it in good faith. So if they still have their inspection contingency, loan contingency is still in place and they don't get the loan, no loan approval, they could cancel based on a loan. If a buyer is writing a contract, and I've said this before, without an appraisal contingency, they can't use the loan contingency to good faith, to back out of a contract if the property doesn't appraise. The seller will have a right to potentially go after their deposit. Another thing, buyers need to, if right of rescission for a contract can be done on 4 mandatory disclosures that have not been provided. So, as I said, TDS, the home hardening, if it applies, lead-based paint, if it's the property before 1978, and the NHD report. Once a buyer is provided with that, even if all their disclosure, the contingencies have been removed, they have a 5-day right to rescind based on receiving those agreements. Or a change to the TDS does the same thing. So be aware, if you're the listing agent, make sure you're providing disclosures early in a deal, and deliver it to the listing agent, to the buyer's agent as soon as possible. And it's also possible to provide disclosures before you have an accepted agreement. That's perfectly acceptable to do. Another thing that came up is final verification of conditions. So a buyer is doing their final walkthrough. And remember, final walkthroughs are not contingencies to a contract. So the purpose is to verify if any agreed upon repairs were done, or to make sure the house is basically, or the property is in the same condition as it was when they wrote the offer. But what happens if you're doing a final walkthrough and you get to a property and there was a whole request for repairs that the seller said they were going to do and nothing was done? So, contractually, that is going to be a breach by the seller. That is, not necessarily a reason for a buyer to, cancel, not perform. But, if it's gotten to the point where, a buyer's hasn't funded their loan yet or hasn't put their money in escrow, you could potentially say that the seller's lack of performance excuses the buyer's performance. So there may be, ways out if a seller has not done, what they've contractually obligated themselves to do. Obviously, we probably want the deal to close. So worst case scenario is deal closes and the buyer sues the seller for any work that was not done that the seller agreed to do. So that was something. Anyone have any questions about that? I was talking earlier this morning, or early in the meeting. Governor Newsom was on the car broker call. The car had a legislative meeting this morning. I thought he was going to mention something about open houses being, coming back or on the horizon. He didn't mention anything about COVID-related showings or open houses. So as it stands now, open houses still are not allowed. You have to do them by appointments. You can schedule them and back to back throughout a day. So all day Saturday, all day Sunday. Use an appointment showing program, makes life easier when doing so, but only one buying party at a time. Remember that. And as far as doing door knocking, they haven't said that you cannot do it. They said dropping off flyers is okay. So just, again, I keep preaching, but if you're going to door knock, be considerate of the homeowner. If they don't want you there, excuse yourself and leave. So before we get to our featured speaker, any questions about anything specific? As I said, Jeff Kahn is going to speak Tuesday, May 11th during my call. So he'll be there to talk about all things legal. Yeah, all right, cool. I could stop. So I wanted to, so Joe Lugbaum is an estate planning attorney, probate attorney. I've worked with him many times. I've known him for many years, very, very professional. I'll let him sort of introduce himself to his background and how he got started. But I'm in the midst of finishing up a probate sale, and it's really, I mean, it's a pain in the ass, let's just say. So you want to avoid it. But if you're going to do it, there's rules and procedures that have to be followed. I'll let Joel talk about, all that fun stuff and why you want to avoid probate, at all costs if you can. So Joel, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Michael. Good afternoon, everybody. So my name's Joel. I'm an attorney in California for going on 36 years. And this is my niche. I help people plan their estates or review and revise their estates. And I also handle probates when someone has failed to put together a comprehensive estate plan. And I also help people administer trusts after the decedent, after the trust or the owner of the assets has passed away. So
I just put a flyer, sorry. I just put a handout that Joel prepared in the chat. So you could open and download it and pull it up on your own computer so you could follow along.
Great, thank you, Michael. And that's a 3-page handout. And the first page are the pitfalls of probate, and how followed up by how to avoid the pitfalls of probate. And then I also included the statutory probate fee schedule. And that's one of the huge reasons why you would want to avoid probate or encourage one of your prospective clients to avoid probate. So let's just sort of talk about the pitfalls of having an incomplete plan. Essentially, if you have an incomplete plan and you become incapacitated or you've died, the court is in charge. The court is going to say who's going to be making medical choices for you if you're alive but incapacitated. The court is going to be saying who the executor or the administrator of your estate is going to be if you've passed away. At time of death, the court also, if you don't have a will, says who your beneficiaries are going to be. There's a table in the probate code that says who the people are that are your next of kin, your intestate heirs, and your estate would be distributed to those intestate heirs. A couple of years ago, I handled an estate, a mother and a son. Mom had died, luckily with a trust. Everything had been left to the son. The son failed to take any action, and when he died, Mom and his estate was distributed among 9 second and third cousins. Some of these people didn't even know the son or his mother. As Michael said, probate is something you want to encourage your clients, your prospective clients, to avoid. Michael, was that probate sale you're involved in subject to court approval?
It was not, which was good. So they had full authority.
Okay, so in probate, there are 2 ways that property is sold. One is with full authority under the Independent Administration of Estates Act, IAEA, and that means that the executor or the administrator of the estate can sell the property just by giving notice to the beneficiaries and heirs. The other way that property is sold is if the administrator or executor only has limited authority under the IAEA. And that means that the sale is subject to court approval. And it's essentially an auction. An initial offer has to be accepted by the estate. The estate publishes notice, and then the hearing occurs. And anyone who possibly wants to bid or overbid the bid that was accepted initially can come to court. As long as they qualify with essentially a 10% opening bid, they can bid in open court, and the court will accept the highest bid. And the court has a mechanism that says what every overbid should be, and the judge essentially acts as an auctioneer for the property. And that is a real pain. Full authority is a lot easier. If you know someone who's in probate or a prospective client who's in probate, full authority is much easier, but oftentimes it's more beneficial for the estate to have limited authority, because that way the estate is maximizing the dollars that the estate is going to be receiving. And so if you pull up or if you look at the handout that Michael put in chat, So the statutory fee schedule is on the 3rd page. And quite frankly, as an estate planning and a probate attorney, I love probate because I make a ton of money on it. And it's really fleecing the estate and the beneficiaries of the estate. It's a horrible situation. In California, it's a statutory fee schedule, and it's essentially 2.5% of the gross value of all the assets that go through probate. So right around this time last year, I was hired by 5 children. Their mother had died pre-COVID, but had died without an estate plan, owning 2 pieces of property in Los Angeles, one in Silver Lake and one in Baldwin Hills. And the children thought that, what property wasn't worth that much, but the court appoints a probate referee who independently appraises the property. And they were shocked when the appraisals came back with mom's property worth $2.3 million. And my probate fee was based on that $2.3 million value and I'm being paid 2.5% to handle the probate. So it's incredibly expensive to go through probate. And with this probate that I was hired for about a year ago, the initial petition for appointment of the administrator was filed in May, and the hearing wasn't until the end of September. With the COVID shutdown last year of the court system, everything has been pushed at least 4 to 6 months. I have a case that I've been working on for 2 years, just absolute disaster of a case. And the judge, I just had a hearing this past week, isn't setting anything for trial until at least September. And because of the shutdown last year, all the long cause and medium cause, midterm cause cases take priority over my client's case. So everything's being pushed into 2022 before there's possibly going to be a trial in that matter. So another reason why you want to avoid probate is it's incredibly time consuming. Things are a little bit better, but still there's a huge time lag because of COVID and the court shutdown.
Joel, how do you get full authority?
So you can request it. A lot depends. If there's a will, the will is going to say usually that the administrator or the executor, the personal representative, can have full authority to transact all business involving the estate. But sometimes that's not included. And if someone dies without a will, then it can be up to the court. If someone dies intestate without a will and requests full authority, the court will impose a bigger bond to make sure that the personal representative is doing what they're supposed to be doing. So it's a little bit up to the court. And then oftentimes as a practitioner, if all the heirs and beneficiaries get along, I will recommend full authority because it's just a lot easier. But if there are any disgruntled beneficiaries or heirs, I'm going to recommend my client, the executor or the administrator, go for limited authority because then it's out of their hands. It's up to the court to accept the highest bidder.
And then, sorry, I'm just gonna
please
interject questions where, if somebody does have full authority and they send out the notice to propose sale to the heirs and they have 15 days to object, if somebody does object, does it then become go to court to get confirmed?
Yes, then the court would have a hearing and the objector could come to court and argue why they're objecting to the sale. Yeah. Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Any burning issues about probate? If not, I'll share some horror stories with you. Rick, Ryan, I think.
Yeah, thanks for being on here today. And I was just curious, just because of the nature of the delay, you said that the fees were based off of this appraisal. If you have a client that's involved in this appraisal, like we use appraisals that they take things back for 3 months. Does this expire at some point? Can you rebut the appraisal? What's the process of that for if you have clients that go into that how can that be addressed if it's, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Yeah.
great question. So I actually had a probate sale. We went back to the probate referee 3 times and got reductions in the appraised value. The one of the appraisals was redone because the comps just didn't line up with this property. The property had a ton of deferred maintenance that just hadn't been taken into consideration. So that resulted in the second reduction in value. And then finally, we had some other arguments that we were able to make to the probate referee, and we got the price reduced. And go ahead.
And I don't know if you mentioned it, but the property has to sell within 10%, 90% of the appraised value. So
Yeah.
that only leaves a small amount of leeway if it's a bad appraisal.
Yeah, and it is a court-appointed appraiser called California Probate Referees. They're appointed by the governor. They're totally independent, but they're good. And like that appraiser worked, that referee worked with us. We really had a hard time marketing that piece of property. Okay. Let's see what else. Oh, I was going to share. Go ahead, Michael.
Who's talking?
Hi, this is Manaz. I have a question.
Hey, Manaz.
Joel, I did probate for a few years, and last year I stopped because the court stopped, the filings, and basically I didn't buy leads after that. I was wondering how much is it back to speed and up and running since last year? Can we say that it's full speed right now, or is it limited?
I would say it's full speed, but there's just a time delay, Manaz. So things are going. I'm making court appearances on a pretty regular basis. I'd probably say about 6 different probates I'm working on right now.
And these are all virtual?
These are all, yeah, they're all virtual. The LA Superior Court really tries to keep people out of the courthouse to protect the staff and the judges. LA Court has set up, LA Superior Court has set up LA Court Connect, which is a really low cost alternative to the other telephonic court appearance system called Court Call. And you can either appear telephonically or via video chat for 15 or 23 bucks. It's super cheap, it's super convenient, and it's very effective.
So even the overbid is right now online?
The overbid, so that's a bit of a hybrid. That case I was just talking about, that we were able to get 3 reductions in value. The seller's agent and the seller were online, but an overbid was actually in court. And so under limited circumstances, you can go to court. They really just try to encourage people to be online.
Okay, thank you very much.
Absolutely.
How do you avoid probate?
So how you avoid probate, and Brandon sort of touched about this. This is something, once again, when you're investigating a property or talking to prospective clients, oftentimes, as I think Brandon pointed out, head of household, the death rate in head of household really has sort of shot through the roof over the last couple of years. And from my perspective, I think will continue to be at an all-time high. Really encouraging people to get a trust set up. Anything that's held in the name of the trust will not go into probate unless there's some kind of dispute or disagreement that's going to drag it into the probate court. But you really want to avoid a probate proceeding because of the timeliness issue, and because of the costs and expenses involved with going through the probate process. So generally, people set up what are known as revocable or living trusts. That means that the person who sets it up has the power and authority to amend and revoke it while they're alive, and they have capacity to do so. Once they become incapacitated or at time of death, they've named people to act as their successor trustees. If they're still alive, the successor trustees carry out the terms of the trust for the benefit of the trustor. And then after the trustor passes away, the trustor has already set up a plan of succession, who the assets of the trust are going to be passed to, distributed to, or held in trust for their use and benefit. I do a lot of planning for parents with special needs children, and it's really crucial that parents with special needs children have appropriate estate planning documents in place, because otherwise their children's benefits could be disrupted if they receive assets that aren't set up appropriately. So if you, another really good talking point with prospective clients is trusts. Are they protected? Is everything set up? A will and a property power of attorney are not going to protect an estate adequately if there's a large estate. Those assets, if you look at the document, the threshold for determining assets going into probate was just raised in the last year. We're now, if anyone owns assets in excess of $166,250, all those assets, if they're not structured appropriately, could be dragged into probate. Brandon, I think, talked about it, a TOD deed. It's actually a revocable transfer on death beneficiary deed is the full name here in California. And if people have small estates with maybe one beneficiary, that might be an appropriate mechanism along with a will. But if they have multiple pieces of property or multiple beneficiaries, or want to control how the beneficiaries get to use assets after they're gone, that TOD deed probably wouldn't be sufficient to help them plan their estate. And so then in that circumstance, they really need to have a trust to avoid probate. Any questions? I'm happy to answer questions.
The trust it's basically just an instrument that you put title to things that you own inside of this instrument, and decide, and the trust is what owns the various assets that you have.
Yes, yes. So let's say I have a trust. I'm the grantor or the trustor, the settlor of the trust. I've set it up, and because they were my assets and they're my assets in the trust, that's considered a grantor trust under the Internal Revenue Code. And while I'm alive, it uses my Social Security number as the taxpayer identification number. I would transfer pieces of property, title on property into the name of my trust. I can designate my trust or hold assets in the name of the trust, like my bank account or investment accounts, life insurance, various assets like that. And then anything that's held in the name of my trust at the time of my death is not going to be subject to probate, or anything that I designate my trust as the beneficiary of at the time of my death. Those are all going to be free and clear of going into any kind of a probate situation. Yeah.
So what agents could do is, you clients that you've sold homes to, you could check to see how if they've how they own the property. If it's in their names individually, you can call them up and say, hey, how are things going? I notice your property is, not in a trust. Have you ever thought about it? Do you know about it? Do you want information? So it could be, a good way to contact clients that you've sold homes to, or just even clients that you're working with.
Yeah. Another example of a probate I handled, I was approached by a realtor out in sort of the eastern part of LA County, and he was already engaged in, I guess the title report hadn't been pulled until escrow was open, and lo and behold, the owner of the house actually was dead, and somebody else was trying to sell the house. So that was a probate for me. We had to get someone appointed, the administrator of the estate, who then could complete the transaction, and we were able to complete it and move forward. But that added probably 8 months to the transaction time period. So really important to check title, to check title records, to check how people own property. Don't get in a situation like that agent did. Lucky to have Michael, who's helming your office, so he's going to keep you out of that kind of trouble, as I'm sure your Keller Williams attorney is. But be really careful about taking any listings.
Yeah, it's very important, as you know, our title guy said, you know, before you, or when you take a listing, or before, you know, just make sure you research the title, get a prelim, you know, ask the, you know, our title people to review it and see if there's any issues that are going to come up.
Yeah.
So.
And I'm happy to have a conversation with anyone. If you have any questions for yourself personally or prospective client, my contact information is on the handout that Michael put in chat. Please feel free to download it. If you want to share it with any prospective clients, you know, please feel free to do so. I'm always happy to do an initial consultation for free. And as I said, I also love probate. So if God forbid, you know, somebody who's in that situation, I'm happy to jump in and help resolve it.
Great. Anyone have any burning probate questions? No.
Well, Michael, thank you. Oh, somebody didn't get the handout. Okay, there we go. So as I said, feel free to reach out, and happy to have a conversation. Michael, thank you so much for having me here today.
Thanks, Joel.
Yep, anytime.
All right, cool. All right, well, thank you. So anyone have any just general questions, issues they've been dealing with that they want to share or ask questions about? Rick? I'm not calling on you, but
No, that was applause for the guy.
no. I'm saying you normally have some questions.
Well, yeah, I'm taking the day off.
Okay.
I had something come up that was not actually probate directly, but just an FYI and heads up. A year or two ago, a client of mine sold a property. Her husband passed away several years ago, and they had paid off a property in full about 20 years ago. And we had difficulty during the sale because title had no evidence that the loan was paid off and that lender no longer exists. So it was a really interesting situation. And ultimately, I think they ended up having to buy an insurance bond, which was thousands of dollars in order to cover that, even though like it was a $270,000 loan that was paid off like in the 80s or something like that. So just a heads up.
So, I just lost my train of thought. With probate sales, I think commissions are capped at 5%, right, Joel? You know, so you can't charge more, you know, if you're taking a probate listing, you can't charge more than 5%.
Michael, is that's only if it's limited authority. If it's full authority, you can charge whatever your client agrees to, from what I know.
Joel?
Well, LA Superior Court rules cap it at 5%. It is the probate staff will review the notice that goes out to all heirs and beneficiaries. And they probably will call that to the realtor's attention that the LA Superior Court rules are at 5%. You may try to get around it by arguing there's some good reason why you should be paid more than 5%. But the court probably won't let you get away with it.
So one question I did have. So if a client is purchasing a property and it's not going into a trust, and they're taking, you know, there's different ways to take title, you know, tenants in common, joint tenancy. Even though as realtors, you should not be advising your clients how they should take take title to a property. They should see their own attorney. But maybe you want to just like clarify, you know, so we all know the difference. So for instance, you know, we're a community property state. California, you could take, if you're married, you could take it as community properties with right of survivorship, joint tenancy with right of survivorship. There's different ways. Do you want to just maybe like touch on a couple of ways to take title that are the
Sure.
most common?
Sure. So yeah, the most common, if sort of two unrelated people, just friends or people who are buying a piece of property together, brothers and sisters, something like that, they probably would take it tenants in common so that they could leave their interest in the property to whomever they wanted to. But tenants in common will trigger a probate if one of them dies and hasn't planned their estate using a trust. That tenant in common interest could go into probate. So it's really important if they're tenants in common to make sure that they then move their interest into a trust or some other mechanism to avoid probate. For
Could
married
that force a sale if it's to unrelated people?
It could, yeah. Yeah, it could. I mean, it definitely is going to cause issues for the surviving tenant in common. And they're going to have to deal with it. So, you know, is there a partnership agreement or is there some kind of an agreement between the two purchasers of the property? For most married couples, you know, the inquiry that I ask, I direct to my clients is, do they have a prenuptial agreement? And what does a prenuptial agreement say about them buying property jointly? Is it community property? Is it separate property? Where's the money coming from? I just helped a wife and her husband, a married couple, amend their prenuptial agreement because she was selling her separate property condo and they're buying a piece of property up the coast jointly, and the impact that that has on their prenuptial agreement. But most couples, and this is now because same-sex marriage is legal and is recognized, it's really important if the couple has bought the property jointly to have it recognized as community property, because they would get the survivor would get a 100% step up in basis. So generally, when I'm helping a couple, gay or straight, I want to make sure that they capture the community property interest. And then the next step is to put it into the name of the trust so that they're not only protected from their community property aspect, but they're also protective if, God forbid, they both pass away and have what's to happen with it through the terms of their trust.
And the step up in basis means it's the property is reassessed at the date of death of the other spouse.
Yeah.
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 Cool. All right.
We bored them to death or just shocked them all to death. So,
well, I have to say, when I was in law school, I hated wills and trusts. Hated. So, you know, but
I have one last question.
yes.
Yes.
So for trust, from what I understand, trusts are mostly used for, you know, after death. But someone was asking me if trust can be used for asset protection.
To a limited degree, if the trust is being set up to avoid a known creditor, that's going to present problems, and I'm not going to help someone do that. But if I'm dealing with clients and they don't know any outstanding liabilities other than, you know, ordinary items, they will have some limited protection. Some jurisdictions, like maybe Delaware, I believe Alaska, have some additional protections built in for using like a Delaware trust or an Alaska asset protection trust. But there have to be some good connections for why you would want to use one of those sorts of things. The other sort of variant of a trust is what is known as irrevocable trust, and it can be used as a planning mechanism for people of really high net worth, because that way assets that are appropriately titled into an irrevocable trust aren't included in that individual's estate for determining whether or not their estate owes any federal estate taxes. So there is a federal estate tax sort of elephant in the room that also gets talked about when I'm dealing with prospective clients about planning their estates.
And when they would speak with a financial advisor in conjunction with, forming the appropriate trust with an attorney, so.
Financial advisor, CPA, yeah, correct.
Thanks.
Great. All right. Well, we have another one in the books. Anyone, any other questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
Hi,
Cynthia.
everyone. So is probate handled differently for an Army vet? Let's say, for example, that he was in the process of getting a divorce. He has a will, but no trust. Would the resources be different? Like, would somebody call you, for example, or would we have to go to a certified like Army vet location or something? Lawyer, sorry.
So, and where did the vet live?
The vet, this is just a hypothetical, but
Yeah.
I know Texas laws are different. I'm just curious, like, how this works with an Army vet.
Okay, so the estate would be subject to the laws of wherever the vet lived at the time of death, or where there were assets. So, like, for example, I'm helping a woman. Her husband inherited a piece of property in Louisiana, and so there's going to have to be an ancillary probate. He lived and died in California, but owned this piece of property in Louisiana. So there's going to have to be what's called an ancillary probate in Louisiana. Cindy, it depends where the vet lives, and at time of death, and where assets were held.
Okay.
Okay. Happy to have
Thank you.
a conversation with you offline if you'd like.
Yes. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Great. So everyone reach out to me if you need Joel's info, but Rick was pretty good about sharing the handout several times throughout this. Thank you, Rick. And all right. Everyone have a great
Michael?
What?
Did you want me to show my slides now real
Oh.
fast or no?
Sure. So let's real quick about the home hardening, new disclosure. Is that what you're showing?
Yeah, that way it'll be really fast. Only like 5 of them.
Sure.
Thanks again, Michael. Thanks
Thanks,
to everybody
Joel.
for your attention.
That was a great presentation, Joel. Fabulous.
Thank you, Cindy. I appreciate it. Let me know if you want me to give one for you.
You know, I need to get your information for sure, because people ask me questions and I'd love to refer them to you. You were fantastic.
Okay. So slides.
My slide. Can you see it?
Yes, just enlarge it to the presentation.
I know, I'm trying to figure out how to do that.
It'd be the bottom right next to the cursor. I think one of those buttons.
Enable.
Bottom
Well, you have to do enable editing first.
Oh, I see it at the top. Okay. There we go. Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the new law. Assembly Bill 38 came out January 1st of this year. And it means that the state and local levels need to be disclosed if it's in a high fire or a very high fire severity zone. So look at the difference right here of the whole state. I know it's a little hard to see. Light pink is high fire, and this darker pink is very high fire. So basically, our whole state is loaded.
Shit
with,
show.
A lot of issues, right? Now look at this. This is the one that I want you to really focus on. The state level says you're not in a high fire severity zone, but look at county or city levels. It's huge. If the local map's not used, then how do you know if you're really in the zone or not? You don't. So this is why there's no reason to ever wait for escrow to open. As soon as you get your listing, call us, go online, email us, let us know the property address and the APN number. We will get you for no money up front the NHD report. Why? Because it's going to tell you right here on the signature page from CAR, are you in the zone? Now notice it says no, because the state map said no. But if it's in the local map, like I just showed you, we will show you on our summary sheet. Not every NHD company does a summary sheet. Notice how we don't just circle it. Well, this is for you. We write very high fire separate. So if somebody's not even looking at the yes boxes, they'll see it. We also tell you it's on page 7 and 8 to read more information. So here it is on page 7, clarifying, yes, you're in a high fire. We put it in red. You can read the map here as well. So we give you like 4 places in the report, and then we give you definitions of high fire, earthquake, seismic activity, etc. We are the experts to help you. Take us up on it. We're here to keep you safe.
Remember, if the property though was built after January 1st, 2010, this disclosure is not required.
Exactly. So that's it. If you have questions, let me know. I'm very happy to help you in any way. And that map clearly shows the huge difference of using a local disclosure versus just state. So please be safe, everybody. We're here to keep you protected.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Michael.
everyone. Have a great week. See you.
Michael,
What?
I thought of a question. If you have a minute, I'll ask it.
Yeah, go ahead.
So this has been a year for me of new things, and with that was some new construction projects. And this isn't related to probate, but this is just something I forgot to ask you about. I've had both listing agents have given me an Avid listing things that aren't in the property yet because it's not been completed. Is that, I mean, I wouldn't do that as a listing. I wouldn't do an Avid unless I'm actually looking at what's there. And I've held off on my buyer's Avid on both and said, I will do it when the project's completed. But that's kind of strange, right? To do that?
Yeah, I agree. The actual Avid document itself is not a required document, piece of paper. What is required is that agents do a visual inspection. We use the Avid because it's just an easy way to jot everything down. But it's supposed to be purely visual. You're not, making, and if you see what appears to be mold on a wall, you're not even supposed to say it's mold. You say
Right.
dark substance. So it's got to be a visual. I mean, I find it hard to do the Avid if it's property that's not there. So.
Right, exactly. They're seeing things, man. Okay.
That's
cool.
Could be true. So, all right. That's it, really?
Thank you, Michael.
All right, see you guys. Have a good week.
Thank you, Michael.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Great meeting, Michael. Thanks so much.